The workshop was more like I did a presentation of some things that I do. I played a few pieces of mine. I do a lot of improvising when I'm playing, so I did that too. And also there was lots of interesting questions from the people in the audience. You know, I started out listening to the whatever, like if it was called, probably it was called heavy metal. I'm not sure, it wasn't really like the heavy metal you hear today, but more like Kiss and that kind of, it was a lot of Kiss for me. And then I started studying. I was in high school, music high school, and I started learning jazz. Was turned into that from listening and teachers and friends who also plays music. That's how I was turned into, I mean, you meet some really important persons in your life that are sort of like, they turn you into some things. They make you discover things. And I have people like that, like everybody has. I have a few of those people around me that I can think of. But I love jazz, and I love all the music, like all the history, and I listen to everything. People that I played with have inspired me a lot by playing a lot with all kinds of different players. I mean, of course there are sources of inspiration, people that I listen to. There's so many, but the style that I'm playing sometimes is called like European free improvised music, and then you have Derek Bailey, which was a groundbreaking guitar player that I listened to, and also a saxophone player called Evan Parker. They started out in the 60s, and but then also like on the Swedish scene, the older musicians inspired me a lot on the Swedish. I'm from Stockholm, so a lot of Stockholm musicians that inspired me a lot. Some of them have also been here for the festival. There's Mats Gustafsson, Raymond Strid, and Sten Sandell that I can mention just off the top of my head, and they're really been a great inspiration for me. Maybe the Canadian audience is probably a little bit more expressive than the Swedish audience. There's more cheering, like more supporting in a way, like screaming, and probably Swedes are a bit more reserved. I know that Canadians also think of themselves as, so at least that's what I heard, that they think of themselves as reserved, but I think we're ahead of you in that sense. I mean, the Swedish audience can also be wonderful, they're very listening, but it's just that you don't have that kind of enthusiasm, like spontaneous enthusiasm, because we're a bit, it doesn't come natural for us. I worked with something called, I work conventionally with the guitar. I work with scales, with chords, arpeggios and all that, but that you need to learn to know the instrument, like conventional guitar technique. But then I became interested in something called extended techniques. And extended techniques can be a lot of things. It can be like using different ways. It can be muting the instrument. On a piano you can put things between the strings, so you mute the sound, so it changes, muffles the sound. On a guitar you can also do that. You can prepare the guitar, they call it, which is like you put things in between the strings, so it just makes it sounds like a different string instrument. You won't see it now, but I carved out a few, like hack, as we say in Swedish. I don't know what that would be. So it's it has a different surface, this pick, so I can use it. I use this left hand technique, which is on guitar language is called hammer-ons and pull-offs. Hammer-ons is when you hammer with your left hand, and pull-off is when you have you pick a note and I pull off the string, so to speak. I was inspired by this British saxophone player called, I mentioned before, Evan Parker, and he has this way of playing solo saxophone where it sounds like he's playing multiple saxophones at the same time, and it's just that he's jumping in register, like from low to high very rapidly, so it becomes like, it almost sounds like it's also very fast the way he plays, so it sounds like it's more than one saxophone, especially when you hear it the first time. And if you don't see it, it's like you don't really understand what's going on. So I was really inspired by that and wanted to do something like that. So I started working, seeing if I could do something similar. I can't, obviously, because it's impossible, and I'm not him. So, but then I sort of, with these techniques that I mentioned before, the pull-off and hammer-ons, I've developed a technique which is based on that, and I create ostinatos, it's called, where you have something that repeats itself, and I try to change it over time. So one thing that could sound something like this. Evan Parker's music doesn't sound nothing like that, but that's where it came from, sort of, and I wanted to develop something from that. Yes, I do. I mean, this technique that I was talking about before with the repeating ostinatos. It also comes a lot from listening to West African, especially like, I couldn't say it in names really, but I listened to a lot of like the Dusunguni music, which is a West African. Dusunguni is like a three-stringed, it's like a prehistoric guitar. It's made of a log that they carved out, and then they put goat skin on it, and then there's a stick, and then you have goat strings. It's a really smelly instrument, but it sounds amazing. It's more like a bass instrument. You could probably play like 5 or 6 different notes on it, and it's usually pentatonic. It's that kind of music that goes on forever. I think it's more usually like ritual music. It's used for different of their rituals. They use it in Morocco and Mauritania, I think. So I listened to that, but I'm also very inspired by this other guitar player called D. Gary, D' Gary, and he's from Madagascar, outside of like on the south outside of Africa. He's an amazing guitar player. I don't know anything about him. Somebody's told me that you should check out this D. Gary. You sound like him, and I listened to it. And I was like, okay, this is, I don't sound like him, but I totally can appreciate, like, and then I started to explore the little music that I found of his, and it's totally amazing. It's beautiful, really. So, and also I wanted to mention I mentioned the dusunguni, which is this kind of bass instrument, but there's also, I'm trying to remember now, but there's this other, it's not the kora. Kora it's similar to the kora. Kora is from a different part of Africa. That's also a beautiful harp instrument, which you have this calabash body and then a stick, and then there's many strings, and they can play like melodies and chords. It's a beautiful instrument, but I think I was more inspired by this. I will remember the name of this instrument very soon, but it has fewer strings. It's basically the same instruments, but it's more simple. It has fewer strings. I think it has 6 strings. It's also like it's calabash, and then it's I think they use fish strings, not made from fish, but the strings that you use to fish, and which is also this like long music, you know, that it's repeating patterns that goes on for a long time. Yeah, on my wish list is I'm very curious of the Gibson SG. This one is also a Gibson. It's a Les Paul Studio. It's not old or anything. It's not vintage. It's a new instrument. But I bought it during the pandemic because of I was very curious about how it would. Because I never really played Gibson instruments, and now I'm in this new phase where I want to check out Gibson SG. I'm not sure what kind yet, but I've tried a few ones here as well, so we'll see what happens.